In 1939, my father, Nicolas Winton, was 29 years old. He was very interested in what was going on in the world. In September 1938, the Munich Agreement handed the Sudetenland, the borderlands of Czechoslovakia, to Hitler in return for what our Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain called peace in our time. They thought this would prevent Hitler having any more territorial ambitions. But what happened was all those people who lived in the Sudetenland, who were under threat from Hitler, who had spoken out against him, or were political, or were Jewish, or were in any way at risk from Hitler, all fled from the Sudetenland into the center of Czechoslovakia. And there were tens of thousands of refugees in and around Prague who were really stuck with nowhere to go. And while he was there, he met a schoolmaster from England called Trevor Chadwick, who'd come over to sponsor some refugee children to go to the school. And Trevor saw what my father was thinking of doing and said, well, if you manage to get this project off the ground, you'll need someone in Prague while you're working in London. So I'll volunteer if you can get the British government to agree to your plan. He decided that there wasn't time to waste, that they needed to get on with it. And so he went to the Home Office and asked for permission to bring in the children from Czechoslovakia. And the Home Office said, sure. There was a whole raft of people who were doing all kinds of work. So it was a team effort. It was never a one-man operation. From March to August, 8 transports were organised that brought 669 children to safety in the UK. Now, my father realised they were running out of time. The 1st of September, the Germans invaded Poland, and so no further transports could leave. I'm going to read an excerpt from a letter that my father wrote to the newspaper in May 1939, where he encouraged people to get involved, to do something to help. In Bohemia and Slovakia today, there are thousands of children, some homeless and starving, mostly without nationality, but they certainly all have one thing in common. There is no future for them. They are forced to remain where they are. He believed that helping others was the most meaningful and satisfying way to live one's life. Of course, he believed that compassion was necessary, as well as knowledge of the problem. But without action, nothing changes. And without action, there is no possibility of making life better for those in need. In September 1939, my father and Trevor both felt that they had failed. They had had so many thousands of names on their lists, and only 669 brought to safety. But 50 years later, the story became public when my father met on a TV program some of the children he saved. And these children, who are now in their 50s and 60s, at last discovered how they'd come to be rescued and met the man who had been a major part in that rescue. We believe there are about 6,000 to 7,000 people alive today because of that rescue project. So, like my father, when you help someone today, you cannot know the ripple effects of that action over the years. He was lucky enough to live long enough to find out the results of his actions. But in 1939, my father and his colleagues did what they did because they felt it was the right thing to do morally, and it was necessary to save lives. So all action to help others is worthwhile. It's simply the right thing to do.